And it's kind of been something that's been plaguing us the last 2 weeks. First the Chiefs, then against Denver. When it comes to mobile quarterbacks, really just digging in and eating us alive. And it seems like we let them do it for a good amount of the game, and then they start throwing a spy on them, and then it's like it closes up magically. But then they do it again the next week, and it happens again. So my question is, why are they not just making this adjustment right away? Just always have a spy.
We need to have a conversation about this because I got to be honest. I know their defense played well in the second half. There was a period of time where I think they had allowed 1 yard total to the Broncos across like a quarter and a half. They stiffened up, they adjusted. They've done that a lot this year where they've been able to find ways to readjust and get better and not get caught by the same stuff. But they have some serious issues that they absolutely, absolutely, absolutely need to address. First and foremost, they are seventh in the NFL, seventh worst in the NFL in missed tackles. They have a huge problem tackling. They need to get better at tackling. We saw a touchdown, the Broncos' first touchdown of the game, a bobbled screen pass. Tony Adams, his first game back, has an opportunity to come down and make a tackle on Jaleel McLaughlin, an undrafted rookie running back for the Broncos, filling in for Javonte Williams, completely and totally whiffs. Completely and totally whiffs. Dives like he got, he's in an action movie and an explosion went off behind him diving through the air, not even getting close to McLaughlin. He's able to make a cut inside, reaccelerate, and gets into the end zone for a touchdown. We saw Russell Wilson, as you mentioned, with mobile quarterbacks, get out of the pocket and run and scramble, and then they seem to spy, and that seemed to help. This is the first issue in terms of mobile quarterbacks in particular, because it goes beyond mobile quarterbacks as a whole, just in terms of how they tackle and their mindset and their process of go full speed, charge as fast as you can, look to take somebody's head off, and technique or angles or pursuit be damned. Their defensive line stunts way too much. Way too much. They send their edges inside and expect their tackles to then loop back outside. They're trying to get inside pressure. They're trying to free somebody up around the corner because they don't want to blitz. They're third in the NFL, third fewest blitz rate, the Jets defense. They want to rush 4. They want to drop 7. They want to get pressure with their guys up front. And if they can't do it just mano-a-mano, then they're going to try and scheme and stunt and go around and find ways to do it that way. When you do that, you lose contain. When you do that, it completely and totally messes up the lanes of escape for a quarterback and gives him opportunities to get out of the pocket and run. And when you're playing either man coverage or a match coverage or a zone coverage that's dropping very deep behind it, there's nobody underneath to then come up and make a tackle. Even if you have a spy, then it's one-on-one with a lot of space. And for guys like Russell Wilson or Jalen Hurts this week or Pat Mahomes the week before, sometimes they can make people miss. They can win a one-on-one opportunity when you give them that much room. Looking ahead, going forward to Philadelphia, they have to slow down their stunts. They have to stop crashing their edges inside and looping and twisting and giving free lanes to the outside for these quarterbacks to run through. They have to play a contained, almost reserved style of defensive line play that is an antithesis to what the Jets want to do up front, where they just want to say, screw it, we're being aggressive, we're shooting gaps, we're firing inside, we're messing up your protections, we're messing up your run calls because we're getting into the backfield too fast, and we're just going to create a whole mess of havoc up front, and our linebackers are going to come down and clean it up. Well, where your linebackers are 15 or 20 yards downfield covering people, they can't come up and do that. There's no one left to go and get that quarterback. You have to keep your edges outside. You have to keep your defensive tackles. One has to be at the front of the pocket. One has to be on one of the B gaps. You have to have your edge rushers keeping contained to the outside. You can't allow Jalen Hurts to just maneuver in the pocket, find a lane and run, or let this gigantically massive and awesomely talented Eagles offensive line catch you in a stunt, prevent it, pass it off correctly, toss your defensive end into the ground, and give Jalen Hurts all day to throw to A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith. Or if you cover all of them, then escape and run and get 20 yards himself. it's a death sentence for the Jets. They absolutely need to adjust, at least for this week, and I think more going forward. They cannot continue to just be constantly stunting and twisting up front and messing up their lanes of contain. It's ruining them on defense.
I think it was because of week one, and I feel like those stunts really helped them, get the pressure that they did against the Bills. And we saw the stunts also take away those inside run lanes. Uh, I remember I believe it was JJ. He got a sack on Allen with that same stunt that we're talking about. But yeah, if it gets predictable, it's going to be easily maneuvered. And the Eagles are the perfect team to be able to figure it out and outmaneuver us. So yeah, it's something that needs to be adjusted. We can't be stagnant in our strategies. We have to always be changing. We have to keep defenses on their toes. We need to keep offenses on their toes. And you don't do that by doing the same thing over and over again. That's just a recipe for disaster. So this is something that, again, not a really hard fix here. It's not something that they need to like throw out the playbook and rewrite. They just need to just switch things up a little bit. And that's all it is.
Yeah, it's you don't need to throw out the playbook. You need to change how you're running the plays that you're calling. You don't trust your front four. You get this loaded defensive line. You say you're going to keep all of these bodies and rotate and keep them fresh and stock all this talent. Let them win traditionally. They don't need to be stunting all the time. You don't need to be sending Carl or JFM on the outside. He doesn't have to be crashing inside to go on a guard. You don't have to send Quinnen from a one technique alignment outside to an offensive tackle 3, 5, 7, 12 times a game. Let these guys get in their stances. Let them go ahead. Let them keep contained in the pocket and collapse the pocket as a whole, not mess it up. Like you got to trust your guys to win. You can't just leave them running all over the place and allow an offensive line in Philadelphia that's incredibly massive, incredibly strong, incredibly talented, incredibly coordinated and cohesive to know what you're doing, take advantage of it, and push you all over the field. You have no chance if you as the Jets offense cannot contain Jalen Hurts in the pocket, cannot take away the easy conversions on third down from scrambling, cannot get some amount of a pressure, and cannot slow down their running game, which if you're stunting a lot too also leaves you vulnerable. You have no shot of beating the Eagles this week. This is a week it has to change. It needs to change a lot going forward, but it definitely has to change this week.
How do you feel about using Quincy a lot more as a blitzer? Because he was a menace out there, and he's having quite the season so far. Maybe even at a Pro Bowl level. I love him as just being that aggressive change of pace and something that if you throw at the Eagles offensive line, maybe that's the one thing that tips things in our favor is just the little surprises here and there, whether it's Quincy, maybe a safety blitz, maybe a corner blitz. I want to see more of these kind of mixed in because I could see the Eagles offensive line just really walling off our defensive line no matter what we do, whether it's do the stunts that we've been doing the last couple stunts twists, or if they change things up and they just allow them to do a more traditional rush. I can see their offensive line because their offensive line is the one of, if not the best in the league. So I could absolutely see that. And these kinds of little twists is something that we need to throw at them in order to really get any kind of production at all.
I'm not opposed, but I'm really worried about it this week in particular in terms of blitzing Quincy more. Because this offensive line is so good and because they've played together for so long now, where you have guys like Wayne Johnson, who's an incredible veteran, Jason Kelsey, who's their, leader on the inside at center, who gets everybody in the right spots. Landon Dickerson's been with them for a couple of years now, gotten a couple of years being able to play and be healthy. Jordan Mailata is a freak of nature of a left tackle who's been playing for years and years now and was with their system and in their program for years before he even became a starter. All of these guys have been together for so long, they can communicate so well. It's really hard to trick them. And if you try and trick them and they figure you out, then you're really vulnerable. So I almost think this is the game where you have to trust your front four to be strong and win. I think you absolutely need your linebackers to stay being linebackers and be at the second level because, again, as we transition, I got one more point I want to make before we fully transition to this Eagles breakdown. The Eagles are number 2 in the league in rushing yards right now. Their rushing offense is how they win. They are number 2 in rushing. They are number 10 in passing. They are number 2 in yards overall as an offense. Their running offense carries them. And if you can't slow them down and force the Eagles to be a one-dimensional passing offense, which they can still be very good at, but if you want any shot of slowing them down, you have to be able to stop the run. And if you got your linebackers blitzing and the Eagles run a counter play and you send Quincy up the wrong gap and they send a pulling guard right through the vacated space, boom, DeAndre Swift's off to the races for 65, or Jalen Hurts is off to the races for 65 because they'll design runs for him too and factor him into the equation. I think in general, you can try on third down, use Quincy a little bit more as a pressure role. I'm not opposed to it, but I'm really worried about it this week. This Eagles team and what they do and what they're good at is a really bad matchup for the Jets in a lot of spots. And this is one of them, in my opinion.
It really is. I absolutely see what you're saying. I'm just kind of looking at the scenario where we don't have the pass rush that we desire with our 4-man front, where we do have to kind of, throw some more things at them just to see what can work. Because they are the best offensive line. Was it the city of brotherly shove? Is that what they're called when they do their little rugby scrum? So it's going to take a lot to really penetrate that wall that they have there. Do we have the tools to do it? Maybe. Yet to be seen. I'd like to see them play up to the talent, and they did against the Chiefs. They also had a very good offensive line and an offensive system that I thought would take advantage of us, and they played a lot better than I thought they would. So I could see them stepping up to the plate, but I can also see the opposite, where they are absolutely blank.